Nokunwaba, you are muted. Ms. Mnguni, you're talking to yourself.
Yes, I realize. Thank you, Dr. T. Welcome, everyone. I see that there are still people who are joining in the lobby, so could you kindly just accept them as they come in? But it's already 6 minutes past 6 now, so we'll begin. Could I kindly request that you keep your videos off? Only the speakers are allowed to have their cameras on. And mute your mics as well, please. Delani, could you please switch off your video? Thank you. And mute your mics, please. All right, so we can just hear everybody. All right, I think we can just begin. Okay, so the recording is on. Can someone just confirm if the webinar is being recorded as well, just to save it for everyone?
Yes, it is.
Yes.
Thank you so much for that. Thank you. All right. Mr. Terence, your video is still on? Thank you. Perfect. All right. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for joining this webinar tonight. My name is Nokonwaba Mnguni. I am a lecturer at the University of South Africa. I am a PhD candidate. I'm an emerging researcher, and I am the founder of Criminal Justice Empowered. So Criminal Justice Empowered is a digital networking platform that aims at providing community insight and guidance to students and graduates in the School of Criminal Justice, including students from forensics, security science, police practice.
Oh, you've been muted.
Am I audible?
Yeah.
Thank you so much, guys. Please don't mute me. I'm speaking. Thank you so much. Thank you for that. I'm not sure when I was muted, but I'll just explain the mission of Criminal Justice Empowered. We aim at providing community insight and guidance to students and graduates in the School of Criminal Justice, including students who are studying forensics, security science, police practice, corrections management, and criminology. We aim to provide support through student support, resources, or career guidance. The mission of the platform is to create a community that fills the gap among students and graduates that have not yet entered the working field as a result of unemployment or lack of knowledge on what to do next. This platform does not promise employment. However, we do support, students and graduates during their waiting period. So if you've been wondering what's available in the criminology profession, so you've definitely joined the right place. I saw it fit to highlight criminology this evening because a lot of students are unsure of this field. So we welcome you to the webinar. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us today, especially that it's in the evening, but we wanted to make sure to accommodate students as working, because most students are working and studying at the same time. So we welcome you, and we also welcome our panel of speakers, Dr. Tobani, Ms. Cohen, Ms. Spitzi, Ms. Matlala, who will join us a bit later, and Ms. Roy, and myself. So tonight we will be discussing the various careers in the criminal justice field. So please do note that tonight's session will also touch on how you can navigate other careers in the criminal justice sector. not just criminology, and how you can use your degree or your diploma to navigate into other sectors as well. So I humbly request once again to please keep your microphones off, as well as your videos. Only the speakers are allowed to have their videos on. And there will be a Q&A session as well. So please keep your questions ready for that. So I definitely think because of time, we should go right into the agenda for today. Like I mentioned, we have 5 speakers, 6 including myself, and we'll all be discussing various topics regarding navigating the career space as a criminal justice student or graduate. So our first speaker for tonight is Dr. Mahlohonolo Tobane. Some of you may already be familiar with her name. She's definitely a trailblazer. Dr. Tobane is the president of the Criminological Society of Africa, which is also popularly known as CRIMSA, the only society for criminologists and criminal justice professionals in South Africa and other African countries. Dr. Tobane I did inform Dr. Tobane that I am definitely going to summarize her bio because it will take up this entire webinar. So I'm just going to give you a brief summary on Dr. Tobane. She has a Bachelor of Social Science in Psychology from the University of Pretoria. She has a Bachelor of Arts Honours in Criminology from UP as well. She has a Bachelor of Arts Honours in Psychology from the University of South Africa. She has a master's degree in criminology from the University of South Africa and a Doctor of Literature and Philosophy from the University of South Africa. Dr. Tobane is an all-rounder and a true inspiration. She has worked at ABSA as a risk analyst, so she has experience in corporate, and she's currently a senior lecturer and a very good researcher at UNISA. She's also my colleague and mentor, might I just add. She's an award-winning researcher. She's a cash-in-transit expert and the founder of Muduka, a non-profit organization, meaning we are together, which focuses on including every single resident of South Africa in the fight of gender-based violence. Dr. Tobane will be sharing with us today the role of CRIMSA, as she is the president of CRIMSA, and most importantly, how a student or a graduate can navigate a career outside of the criminal justice field with a qualification in criminal justice. So Dr. Tobane, she has presented a brief PowerPoint presentation for us. And Dr. Tobane, you may go ahead with your presentation.
Sorry, I did not muted. Thank you so much, Ms. for that very kind introduction. So as Ms. Mnguni has said, that we are colleagues, and I'm also her mentor and her master's and PhD supervisor. So I actually, just before I start with my presentation, want to thank you for inviting me as a first speaker at the inaugural webinar for the criminal justice empowerment. So this is actually a very, very important event to be speaking at, as it is your very first event. And congratulations for that. I know we've been speaking about it a lot, and I'm so happy to actually see that it's happening already. So proud of you.
Thank you.
So let me just get into it immediately. So the title of my talk, so I don't want to make it a lecture. I do have a PowerPoint, but I don't want you to focus too much on the PowerPoint. I just want it to be a conversation. So as you can see, the title of my talk is Be Intentional About Your Career. As Ms. Mnguni has said, I am actually the president of CRIMSA, which is the Criminological Society of Africa. And I will tell you a bit more about it right now as I start with my presentation. So So CRIMSA is basically a locally and internationally recognized interdisciplinary professional society. So by interdisciplinary, I'm speaking about disciplines like criminology, which has already been mentioned by Ms. Nguni, and various criminal justice qualifications such as like policing, such as security management and corrections management. So yeah, we are an interdisciplinary society of professionals and academics. And the purpose of CRIMSA is that we promote theoretical and applied criminology and related disciplines, the different disciplines that I spoke about. And we as CRIMSA, we actually do that promotion not only in Africa, but also not only in South Africa, but in Africa and further afield, as we do have some members who are not necessarily in the continent, but are in the African diaspora. So I've included a link there to the CRIMSA website so that if you do want to read a bit more about us, you can do that. I will share the presentation with you so that you can have access. So in relation to today's event specifically, at CRIMSA, we do have a subcommittee called the Emerging Researchers, as the point of basically this criminal justice empowered is to focus on emerging researchers or early career professionals, as Ms. Nguni has already alluded to. So at CRIMSA, we actually do support early career professionals or emerging researchers. Early career academics or practitioners who are not yet established as researchers or as professionals in their specific careers. And also what we do is that we organize different colloquia for professional development. So we actually started like about 2 years ago to organize what we call Emerging Researchers Colloquium. So the subcommittee is basically, it's headed by myself as the president of CRIMSA, as well as the editor-in-chief of our associated journal, Acta Criminologica, and that is Professor Lillian Ott, who's at the University of Cape Town. So, and also the purpose of the emerging researchers is to get the early career practitioners and researchers in CRIMSA, those who are part of CRIMSA or members of CRIMSA, to network with each other. So just to give like a little bit more of background on CRIMSA, we actually are representing every single university in this country that offers a criminal justice qualification. So be it University of Free State, University of Cape Town, UNISA, University of Pretoria, every single university in this country that either offers social sciences or criminal justice related career, they are represented in CRIMSA. So all those various professionals are part of CRIMSA. But also, CRIMSA is not only for academics, because people think that, no, you have to be an academic to be an emerging researcher, or you have to be an academic to be represented in CRIMSA. We actually are representing practitioners also. We do have practitioners who are part of CRIMSA, and we actually want to grow our footprint more in the practice space. So we've got colleagues who are coming from the South African Police Services, we've got corrections, we've got colleagues from NGOs, basically like different parts of, you know, our professions where the criminal justice field is being practiced. So CRIMSA is not only for academics. So you can see the opportunity for networking in CRIMSA because we do have different individuals from either academia and also from practice. Just to talk about like the importance of a professional association. Firstly, a professional association seeks to further a particular profession. Our profession, criminology or the criminal justice, is furthered by a professional association like CRIMSA. And then what a professional association also does, it furthers the interest of individuals engaged in that profession. So, I mean, various people like myself and many other professionals and academics who are in CRIMSA, their interests are also being furthered by just being a member of CRIMSA. And also what we do is that we further the interest of the public. As criminal justice practitioners, we do know that in South Africa, we have one of our biggest problems is crime. Granted, crime is one of the #1 issues in South Africa. And that is why you do require criminal justice practitioners or academics or criminologists who actually do study the causes of crime and try to assist the public in solving the crime problem that we have in South Africa. And then, so I know some of you might not be members of CRIMSA as yet. So part of my being here or being one of the presenters today is to basically try to recruit some members, especially emerging researchers or early career professions, to becoming members of CRIMSA. So I'm actually here to recruit some members also. So why become a member of a professional association or a professional society like CRIMSA? First of all, I spoke about networking. So, I mean, if you are looking for a job, for example, I mean, the saying that it is not what you know, but who you know does play a role. And just also to say, as Nokonova said earlier on, we are not guaranteeing that people will be getting jobs and all of that by being part of CRIMSA or by being part of the Criminal Justice Empowered Group, but through networking, you might actually be speaking to the right people or associating with the right people. People might be able to share some, job advertisements with you. They might be able to share some tips with you where research is concerned. Maybe you are still a student, you're still studying either undergraduate or your honors or your master's or PhD. It is important for you to network with people in your field. You cannot not be networking with people in your field. But also, the networking also opens up opportunities for collaboration. A lot of people that I'm actually collaborating with right now are the people that I've met at CRIMSA. So for myself, CRIMSA has personally helped me to network with people. I remember I was just like, as I was preparing for this talk today, I was like, actually, the very first CRIMSA conference that I attended was in 2006 when I was doing honors in criminology at University of Pretoria. That's when I became aware of CRIMSA and I started working and I became a member of CRIMSA. And then I became the secretary of CRIMSA, the vice president, and now the president. And CRIMSA, or being part of a professional association, helps in your professional development. Like I said, I've met a lot of people in this association that have helped me, professionally to develop. A lot of people that I work with, my mentor herself, I met her here through CRIMSA. And then there's a lot of learning opportunities. I mean, you can't stop learning, and especially if you are an academic. There's a lot of learning opportunities. We learn from each other. CRIMSA has biannual conferences that we have, different activities that we have, and we just continue learning from each other. And also being part of a professional association or a society helps you to keep up to date with your field. So if you are isolated and not part of any body or a society, you're probably not going to be up to date with what's going on in the criminal justice field or in the criminology field. But when you are part of a body or when you are part of something bigger than just yourself and your institution or your organization, you are able to keep up to date with what's going on in your field. And then the last one is, being part of a professional society helps you with social responsibility. There's a lot that I do outside of my job at UNISA or my job as a researcher, whether at UCT or wherever I'm doing research. As a criminologist or as a criminal justice practitioner or a researcher, there's a lot of social responsibility that lies on our shoulders. Whether we actually are doing it intentionally or not, we are contributing into our society by trying to solve the crime problem, like I did explain earlier on. So career-wise, Ms. Mnguni has already read out my CV. I'm an emerging researcher myself, but honestly, I think because I have not been closed-minded, like that quote reads there, that don't be narrow-minded, know your why, have a vision, and be intentional about your career trajectory. I am aware that it's not easy as a criminologist, or especially as a criminologist. Other criminal justice practitioners, it might be a little bit easier, like if you are working in the correctional space or you're doing a police practice degree or qualification, or you are in security management. It is a little bit clear exactly what it is that you're supposed to do. But I mean, a lot of people still don't know what a criminologist is. I mean, I get asked a whole lot of like funny questions about what I do. People ask me, so are you a security guard? Are you a correctional officer? Are you a police officer? And I'm like, no, I'm not. But actually, I work very closely with those professionals, very, very, very closely. So as Ms. Nguni said, I actually, and people, and like I said, it might be easier to get a job if you have a qualification in policing. And as a criminologist, it might not necessarily be easy to even see an advertisement that says, I'm looking for a criminologist. And this is where you have to have a vision and know your why. When I started with the qualification, I knew that I wanted to solve the crime problem in South Africa. I knew that I wanted to support victims of gender-based violence. I knew my why. And my why was then driving me in all the career options or career choices that I made. Like I said, it might not be easy to find a job as a criminologist, especially if you are narrow-minded, if you are not creative. So I'm just going to take you through my journey just in 2 minutes. I'm finishing. This is the last slide. So when I started in 2007, I graduated at University of Pretoria at the end of 2006. And my first job that I did was I was a postgraduate research assistant at the then UNISA Department of Security Risk Management. I worked there for a year from 2007 until 2008. And then after that year, I landed a job at ABSA. And a lot of people are like, ABSA, how is that even possible? But I often ask people, is there a company that does not have a crime issue? No. You work for a spaza shop, you'll have problems with people stealing. You work for a bank, you have a problem with crime. You work for a hospital, you have a problem with medical fraud. Like there isn't a place, literally, if you think about it, where a criminologist cannot be placed in this country. It's just that the only problem is that we are looking for jobs that say we are looking for a criminologist. So at ABSA, I worked as a risk analyst, and that is where I gained my specialty as a cash and transit, in cash and transit. So I analyzed violent crimes in the bank, your ATM bombing, cash and transit heist, armed robbery, bank robbery, robbery of your bank clients. They needed a person who has a skill in research and a person who has a skill as a criminologist or in crime. And that is why I landed that job as a risk analyst. And secondly, I'm a founder of an NPO. There's a lot of criminologists that work in NPO spaces. There's a lot, especially NPO spaces that focuses on crime. My NPO, Muduka, focuses on the prevention of gender-based violence. So as a criminologist, I already have the knowledge, I have the training, I have the specialties, and that is why I can actually work in an NPO space. I also work for UCT as a research consultant in the Department of Gender, Health and Justice Research Unit. So there, obviously, as a criminologist, I'm able to work in that space because it focuses on crime. You can work in the police. There's some people that I know, criminologists that work in hospitals that actually work with medical fraud and all of that. A lot of criminologists that work in the correctional services. A lot of criminologists that work in the research space, like the Human Science Research Council. So that is why I'm saying, do not be narrow-minded. I'm not saying there's a lot of jobs out there for criminologists, but do not look for a job that says that we are looking for a criminologist. As long as you're a criminologist, if there is a job that requires somebody that is able to understand the causes of crime and solve crime, you'll probably be able to do that job. So be creative, be open-minded, and you will see that you will be able to follow the career trajectory that you have planned for yourself. What I've realized is that the reason why a lot of criminologists are unemployed is because we are looking for jobs that are specifically saying that they're looking for us. And we are not going to be sought as yet as criminologists, because a lot of people in this country still do not understand what criminology is and what a criminologist does, which is actually quite confusing, seeing that we have such a big crime problem in South Africa. So yeah, basically that's that from me. Like I said, if you are not yet a member of CRIMSA, you are welcome to contact me. That is where I personally met a whole lot of people who are in the space, who are in the academia, who are in different professions, who are in different organizations. And I was able to network with those people. So if you're not a member as yet, I've left the email address there for CRIMSA, which is crimsasouthafrica@gmail.com. And you are welcome to contact me, and I will give you all the information that you require to become a member of CRIMSA. Thank you so much. That's my story.
Thank you so much, Dr. Tobane. I think we have an echo. Perfect. Thank you so much, Dr. Tobane. One thing that I took away from Dr. Tobane's presentation today was that regarding networking, she mentioned that it's not what you know, it's who you know. Hence, I previously mentioned that that's why I created this platform to broaden our networking and our connections, because you never know who you meet, and you never know where it will lead you. So definitely, please do not hesitate to contact Dr. Tobane for any CRIMSA related queries. Please do not contact her asking her if there are any jobs available. We will do that as Criminal Justice Empowered. That's something that we will also, whenever there are posts available, we'll make sure to put it out there as well. But thank you so much, Dr. Tobane. I know that some of you guys may have questions, but please save those questions for the Q&A session, which will happen after the two next speakers. Our next speaker following Dr. Tobane is Ms. Chelsea Cohen. So I'll use first name basis because we graduated our honors class together in the criminology qualification. Ms. Cohen is a socio-political criminologist. Now, I'm not sure if you've heard of that before, but Chelsea is a socio-political criminologist. She holds a master's degree in criminology, law, and society from the University of Cape Town. She is also a second-year international politics student at UNISA, focusing on Africa politics. She has a strong background in researching, facilitating factors of social unrest, security governance challenges, gender research, and criminal acts from societal and political contexts. She has spent the last years developing her knowledge and volunteering in the NGO sector, where she has worked on projects related to victim offender mediation, evaluation of diversion programs, safety and security reform policies, as well as investigating administrative justice and security development challenges in the public sector. That was a mouthful. Ms. Cohen, she will share her presentation today on navigating a career in governance. I'm not sure how many of you guys have ever heard someone with a criminology background working in governance. So Chelsea today will be sharing her experience and how she navigated unemployment and how she was able to find herself working in the public, not private sector, in governance as well. Apologies about that. So Chelsea, we are ready for your presentation. If you can just switch on your camera. Perfect. There we go. I'll mute my mic so we don't have any echo. Thank you so much, Chelsea, for agreeing to share your experience today in governance. You may go ahead.
Thank you for having me. This this is actually so amazing. So thank you for this. But I'm going to just tell everyone my journey up until where I am now. And yeah, so I would definitely have to say that my journey as a graduate can be characterized with uncertainty. So if you are feeling very unsure at this moment, it's fine. It gets better. And you know, I wasn't sure where to start after I did my criminology degree. I had no idea where to find employment. So in hindsight, if we had a career talk in undergrad, this sort of really helped me start the process earlier. But, you know, I just knew that I wanted to be in the spaces of transnational crime, international security, and how they are caused from social justice issues. So having this type of goal and vision for myself allowed me to narrow down on the modules I would start taking and also the type of readings I'd focus on. And, you know, so from honors right into masters, I really started gravitating to those type of modules. And I focused on criminology, law and politics, and society, and just how those fields intersect together. So I have quite an interdisciplinary background, but the standard is criminology. You know, it was during my master's I had my first real work experience. It was unpaid, unfortunately, and I know there's a lot of those going around, but I worked with a community and I did like real actual community work where we worked on community security, gender-based violence, and a policy reform project. And, you know, this really gave me a better understanding of how different disciplines intersect with each other and, you know, understanding root causes of social injustice. So I then came across a public protector posting. So that was my first job after master's. And for those that do not know, public protector does actually request for criminology students. It says there. So I took a chance and I was like, why not? And I was actually the only criminology student there that was full of lawyers. So don't be intimidated by just applying. You never know. And, you know, so I worked there for a year. During the time for contract negotiations, the pandemic hit, and we can all just imagine everything went upside down. So there was no more contract extension for me. And yeah, I became unemployed once again. And, you know, it hit me hard, but I used that time to develop myself and enhance my skills and understand areas that I wasn't too sure of and do my CV up again. And I started taking the opportunity to write on social justice issues that I was passionate about. And I would enter writing competitions. Like I would just see them online and I would enter and I would submit my articles. And then I got 2 of my articles published. One is with an international security organization actually in Washington. And the other article was published in the newspaper for Women's Month last year. And, you know, that helps you and your profile when you're job searching. And it gives you a bit more credibility. So, you know, I realized I needed to be more assertive with my job searching. So I would reach out to organizations, their HR managers. I would simply just send a nice email, ask them if they had internships. And, you know, I ended up freelancing with a local NGO in Johannesburg, actually with Miss Roy. She'll be speaking soon. And then, you know, I started being more focused again and I reached out and I found the current job I'm in now, and that's at the Institute for Justice and Reconciliation, and absolutely loving it. But as my role as a social political criminologist, it might be a first, but you know, I look at the social, political, and economic factors that shape particular environments and how these affect the lives of people. So I look at the nature of issues, the type of policies that are used and the impacts, and sometimes the policies that are missing and those impacts. So in my current position, I do work in the research and policy unit, as well as the peace building unit. Because IJR is a think tank, it has a lot of projects. So it's nice in the sense that you get to work on different types of projects, hence why I'm also in a peace building unit. And you know, your roles and your duties are dependent on the types of projects that you would work on, but they are core responsibilities that, you know, such as research, identifying thematic areas of concern, stakeholder mapping, stakeholder engagement, and a lot of report writing for stakeholders. And you know, stakeholders that we deal with can range from the UN, UNDP, government, and just other institutions as well that need our assistance. We facilitate focus groups, and the nice part is that we don't solely focus on South Africa. We also focus on other African research as well. So that was very important for me because it's in line with my future goals. And in saying that, you know, I'm just saying to everyone now, please be very clear about your vision, not the route, because that can change, but your vision. It will really help you navigate to where you want to be. And someone that is a criminologist, I know navigating is not easy at all in these spaces, but you also need to sell yourself and your knowledge, like be confident in what you're studying and what you want to do. So when you're sitting in that interview, it's not, oh, I just studied this. It's applying what you studied and say, this is how I will help your organization. So it's basically, this is why you need me. And so I'm now in the space of public governance, and, you know, it's not a very clear discipline like a law discipline, for example, but it's about the formal and informal arrangements that determine how the public decisions are made. So my advice, honestly, would be try to be as interdisciplinary as possible so you can have an understanding of the different aspects that create good governance. So accountability, transparency, democracy, the rule of law, and you know, when you come from criminology and a social perspective, you'll find that those are the characteristics that are missing from our social settings, hence why there's like violence and unrest and all these other things that start coming up. So, you know, I just think when you look for jobs in the spaces that aren't characterized as criminology, look for stuff that work alongside government. So IJR, for instance, public protector, UNDP, they have a lot of internships and they pay. UN in Pretoria, unfortunately, doesn't pay, but if you can do an internship, it would be really great and a great boost, you know. So, you know, it's just about promoting democracy and democratic values through the work that we do in governance. So, you know, my last point, and it's my advice, do not be afraid to empower yourselves, ladies and gentlemen. And by empowerment, I mean, it is not only your education, it is a state of mind. It took me a while to figure that out. And, you know, you need to be open to the possibility that your goals and your passions are achievable, 100%. Start getting confident in using applications like Excel, SPSS, Access. You know, you'd be surprised how much I actually use those, and I thought I would never use them. But also practice the STAR interview method, STAR. It's so important because if you can master STAR interviews, you can do any type of interview. And most importantly, guys, if you do not have a LinkedIn profile, get onto LinkedIn, network with people, speak to people you admire that are where you want to be. I found my mentor actually that way, and it helps you so much to be clear on going forward and setting goals and visions for yourself, you know. This book, if anyone, can you guys see it? I hope so. It's the 2-hour It's the 2-hour job search by Steve Dalton. I'll put it in the box, but it changed my life. It will tell you how to navigate LinkedIn because it's actually a science. It gives you a way to email people, reach out to people, and really get the best value out of LinkedIn. Honestly, I found my job, IJR, through speaking to someone on LinkedIn who told me she started her career at IJR. And I was like, oh, IJR. So I went onto the website and I saw job opportunities. And I was like, okay, this is what I'm going to do. So you have to do it. Set yourself a goal, a vision, and just go for it, really. Mine is international peace and a development officer for the African Union. Is it a big and unachievable goal? No, it's not. It's just a process. I just have to go through the process. So guys, be kind to yourself also. There's a lot going on. There's a lot. So be kind and just know the universe always responds to brave. So be brave as a criminologist. Just be brave and go for it. That's me.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ms. Cohen. Oh my goodness, I cannot emphasize like how important it is to just be brave and trust in yourself. Like I previously mentioned, we did honors together as well as Miss Roy. We would like three of us who would study all together. And I can definitely say that Chelsea, Miss Cohen, and Miss Roy are LinkedIn professionals. They are there all the time. Me, on the other hand, not so much. They are there always like putting up motivational things, and you get a sense of what they do and what they're about. So I do think LinkedIn, it can be a bit, sometimes it can be a bit demotivating when you see other people, get their stuff, but it is very motivating to have that circle, like we said, that network of people that you can Ooh, please mute your mics. I know it's already late, the babies are crying, but please mute your mics. Yeah, I just want to just highlight what Ms. Cohen shared with us in her presentation. Firstly, what I took away was be assertive and don't hesitate about freelancing. Her and Ms. Roy, which I'm sure she will briefly touch on, did a lot of freelancing for NGOs as well. So don't be hesitant about that. Be clear about your vision, not just the route. You see that I have quotes on my wall. I think I'm gonna add it on my wall because that is a powerhouse on its own. And she also said, get into LinkedIn, like we did say, it really, really does help just to put yourself out there. I mean, it doesn't hurt. And then the book that she also shared with us is the 2-hour job search. I just didn't get the author, but would you kindly just share it in the chat box as well? Thank you. And then she said, most importantly, people, we all know job hunting and feeling very unsure about your career, especially in our field. She did say, be kind to yourself. The universe will always reward you. Patience, patience, patience. So yeah, thank you so much for your presentation. We really, really appreciate it. Keep your questions, people. One more speaker, and then we'll get into the Q&A session. All right. I'd like to introduce our next speaker, Kiamogetswe Pitsi. She is a junior analyst at SSG Holdings. FYI, I also met her on LinkedIn. Do you understand the significance of LinkedIn, people? So she is a junior analyst at SSG Holdings. She has a BA degree and a Bachelor of Honors degree in criminology, both respectively from the University of Pretoria. Initially, Kiamogetswe wanted to be a psychologist, just like Dr. Tobane, but as years went by in her studies, she developed a love and interest for criminology, like we all do. During her honors year, she developed a huge interest in female offenders, such as myself, and that is where her research interest lies. She plans on conducting her master's research on incarcerated female offenders who have committed violent crimes. Ms. Pitsi will be discussing her experience as a criminology graduate in corporate. I don't know if you hear much about criminology in corporate. However, today Kia is going to share her experience with us and how corporate react to criminology graduates. So what is it that we do when we get to corporate? What kind of companies usually take in criminology students? And do we really do criminology related work? So Miss Spitzi, could you just kindly switch on your, oh, perfect. I didn't see her there. Thank you so much for taking the time to share your experience as a criminology graduate in corporate. Kindly go on with your presentation. Thanks.
Good evening, everyone. And thank you so much, Nokonava, for inviting me to join such a special talk. I feel so honored. I told you that I feel like this is very big. It's a big deal to me because I'm actually speaking amongst some of my role models, if I may say so. So, yeah, thank you so much. And like Nokonava said, we met on LinkedIn, so it is actually very useful. I sent her a message when I realized that she's a lecturer at UNISA, and then I saw her master's, what is it, research, and it's in line with what I want to do. I was like, okay, so there's hope. It was a time where
Okay, it seems like you're having connectivity issues.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Is
Mr.
there echo?
Floyd, Mr. Chowke, can you please switch off your video? Thank you. Kia, please continue. Thank you so much.
Okay. Is it still echoing?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. All right. So let me just get right into it. So I'm going to be speaking about navigating employment, basically, as a criminology graduate. A difficult one, if I may say so myself. But my journey as a graduate navigating employment has been relatively easy, if I may say so. If you speak to someone, they would say I've had it easy, but I'd like to believe that it's more of my hard work that got me where I am today. So, I'm a junior analyst, like Nokonova said, and I work for a security company. But before this, so this is my second job. I've been in the job market for about a year and a half because I completed my honors degree in 2019. Yeah, my first job, I was a claims technician working for an insurance company. So, how I got the job, I'm sure you know if you attended if you did your honors at the University of Pretoria, you would know that at the end of our honors year, they usually bring in people from different companies that are looking for criminology graduates to just briefly give us a chat about their companies and to open employment for us. So you can apply and they'll call you in for an interview. So that's what happened. There was about 5 or 6 companies that came through, and yeah, I applied to all those companies and I got a job at Prime Meridian Direct Insurance. So just because they come to us and sell themselves does not necessarily mean that you will get the job. um yeah, so it's more of you also need to sell yourself. It's very important to sell yourself and let your work ethic speak for itself. So yeah, I worked there for about 3 months, and I got a call one day while I was at work from someone who works at SSG Holdings, and they told me that they'd like to invite me for an interview. I didn't know what SSG was. I didn't know what they do. I've never applied, but obviously you're like, okay, a job opportunity. I'm gonna take this. So I went to the interview and they liked me and I got the job. But one thing that I need to note was that the previous companies that I applied at after my honors year, they actually forwarded my CV to my current company. So that is how they got a hold of me. Um, you know, it's very tricky. I'd like, if I say this, if I have to say this myself, actually, and I think a lot of new criminology graduates would agree, it's not an easy journey. It is confusing. You feel lost. You feel like you don't know what you're doing. But like the previous speakers have said, you need to know your why and you need to be patient. Because I have realized that as much as our skills are not being used, especially um, in the corporate sector, our skills are not being used. The skills that we learned in school, rather, they are not being used in the workplace. And it feels rather demotivating that obviously you have certain expectations when you graduate and leave school. You have certain expectations of what you want to do in the workplace. But because criminology is still a growing discipline, especially in South Africa, you need to be patient. You need to be patient, but always know why you're doing something. Um, Another thing, which is also, I believe, demotivating, is how there are a lot of job opportunities that are advertised, but are we really getting the jobs, especially in the public sector? So I'm sure we all know, if you're a criminology graduate, you know that the DPCI, the SAPS, the NPA, this year they've been wild. There've been job posts almost every single month where they say they require criminology graduates, but I don't know if we're really considered, or are they still getting to learn more about criminology? So be patient with yourself, but continue working hard. Um, yeah, so and in the private sector, if you, a lot of criminology graduates, you'd know, who work in the private sector, they are analysts, either risk analysts, intelligence analyst, or analysts. That is what we do. Um, is this?
Yes, someone's microphone is mic is on.
I think it's Lerato.
Please mute our mics.
Sorry.
Thank you. All right. Yeah, please go on.
Okay. So yeah, like I was saying, it's mostly analysts. And I know when you especially after your honors year, you are looking more on the forensic side of life, the crime side of life. You actually want to be in that sphere. But I've realized that it's almost, I don't want to say non-existent, but um yeah, doing what you learned in school in the corporate world is, yeah, it does not happen. But patience, like I said, patience is what needs to be happening, because I truly believe that criminology is going to be big. It's going to be something that is going to be required. Like Dr. Tobani said earlier on, um, I don't think there's a company that does not experience crime. I don't think there's a company that doesn't experience crime. So there will come a point where criminologists will be noticed and we will be in demand. So don't give up, especially as a new graduate. It's very demotivating. I know myself, I've been applying left, right, and center, but it's just not happening. But I know when the time is right, it will happen. Um, yeah, so also have an open mind. It's important to have an open mind in everything that you do. Um, in the end, it's more about self-development as well. You empower yourself and you get to learn more. And there's no years wasted. I mean, what you learn as an analyst can be used one day when you become a forensic professional somewhere. It will help. It adds on to the skills that you have, and yeah. But another thing that I also wanted to note is that what I've realized, and one of the challenges that I've faced in corporate criminology, is how there's job posts, a lot of job posts that are being advertised, especially like your forensic investigators, your forensic criminologists and all of that. But one thing I've also realized is that they the description in the job usually uh Quincy, can you please switch off your mic? Thank you. Um, the job description of your forensic investigators, I realized a lot is that they require people who have studied your accounting and your auditing and stuff, and it becomes a little bit. That's why I'm saying criminology is not yet recognized. It becomes tricky because it's forensics. You have been you have the forensic skills. You have the investigator skills that you've learned, but when you look at the description, it goes more to your BCom side and your accounting side and your auditing side. But what I do and what I'd suggest that everyone does is just apply. Apply every chance that you get, every job post that you feel relates with you and your skills and what you want to do. Apply and you'll be surprised. So I had an opportunity actually where I applied in the SAPS earlier this year. It was an internship, and it was actually successful. I just didn't take the offer because, yeah, when you balance things out, it didn't make a lot of financial sense. But for new graduates who have not yet been exposed into the job sector or into the corporate world, I'd really suggest that you take the internships. There's a lot of skills that you actually learn there. And once you're inside the government sector, it's much more easier to navigate your way to where you want to be. So, yeah, that is it from me. And the advice that I would give is, like I said, and I'll repeat again, work hard. Your hard work will reward you in the end, and you'll see that it was not null and void. So work hard every opportunity that you get, especially in varsity years, your honors years. You'll see that you will attract what is meant for you. And hence, I was saying, people might say my journey was easy and I've had it easy, but I don't believe that I had it easy. I just think I worked my way to where I am now. So, yeah, that is it from me. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Ms. Fitzi. She's truly an inspiration. I'm looking at the chat section and the attendees are really inspired. So am I. I learned some new information that I did not know about her. We do definitely have some intelligent women on the panel today. She was basically headhunted. I mean, that should say something. But I just want to highlight a few things that I took away from Ms. Fitzi's presentation, which was that criminology has so much growth, which is true. It's something new, relatively new in this country. So of course, it has to start with someone. I guess we are the people that have to have it a bit difficult first before it becomes fully accepted and professionalized. And I think we, as speakers, we can all agree that I know it's easier said than done, but do not feel demotivated. Circumstances can make you feel like that, but do not feel demotivated. Always keep your head up high. And lastly, have an open mind, which is true. Who would have, not everyone knew that, corporate could ever hire someone with a criminology degree. But just for interest's sake, I'd like to say that Ms. Peter's first job as the at PMD, if I'm not mistaken, I actually saw that offer and I did apply. I think I was doing I don't know, my honors. They did not take me, but it's fine. I mean, she got the job, she deserved it. And clearly she would have done a better job than me. But this just goes to show people that, like, at the end of the day, you never know who you're going to meet. Like when I saw her profile that she worked at PMD, I knew that this was the job that I applied for before, and I was interested to know, what exactly is entailed of the job. And that's how you build connections. You don't necessarily have to be mad when someone gets the position you applied for. That can just give you some knowledge going forward that, oh, okay, these are the kind of jobs that are out there, and next time this is what I'm going to, look out for and apply for. So before we go into our next speaker, I think it is rightfully so that we go straight into our Q&A session. So I'd kindly request that if you have a question, raise your hand and unmute your mic, not your video. Just unmute your mic, and then you may ask question to Dr. Tobane, Ms. Spitzi, or Chelsea Cohen, and then they will answer your questions. I've set aside 15 minutes for Q&A session. However, we'll just see depending on how the session goes. All right, so I see a couple of hands. So when I mention your name, please unmute your mic, and then you can just direct your question to the person. Please keep your videos off as well. All right, the first hand that I see here is Alexa Ritz. Please unmute your mic, and you can direct your question to any speaker.
Hi guys, sorry I have a weird voice. I'm just battling COVID.
Sorry, get well soon.
Thank you so much. We're surviving out here.
Yeah, definitely.
I wanted to find out, is anyone here a criminal psychologist? Because I'm actually studying criminal psychology, but switching over to a specialization in forensic psychology. And I just wanted to know if anyone has a background in this or perhaps has some advice for me.
All right, I'd quickly like to jump in there. I did not do psychology. My minor was in penology. However, Dr. T and Mr. Ditsi did study. So maybe Dr. T and Mr. Ditsi can give you a bit of advice with your question.
Thanks.
Okay. So I did psychology. Actually, I thought I was going to be a forensic criminologist or a forensic psychologist. That's where I was actually going with my career. But obviously, God knew exactly where I needed to go. So I did psychology until I was I have my honors degree in psychology. And after I got my PhD, I thought about getting my honors in psychology so I can qualify as a forensic psychologist. But then I decided to stay in the criminology stream. So I know like a couple of people who've actually made a success out of a career in forensic psychology or forensic criminology, where I know a lot of people who actually are working in the SAPS psychologically motivated section. Psychologically motivated crimes and section where they are dealing with obviously like serial murders, serial rapes. They also like those psychologically motivated basically crimes. And then I know one of my lecturers, guest lecturers at University of Pretoria was Mickey Pistorius. I think some of us might know her. She was a profiler. She was a psychologist, a clinical psychologist, and worked at the SAPS psychologically motivated crimes. And then Professor Labo Skatny, who was also a head there, he's got a master's degree in clinical psychology and also has a qualification in criminology. So I think there is actually quite a bit of, as opposed to us who, because I can't consider myself a forensic psychologist or forensic criminologist because I only stopped at the honors level, although I do have that background. But obviously, I would need the master's degree. So I would say that you are actually in a better space than a person who just has just the criminology and did not go all the way to the master's in psychology. So, I mean, you can also, they do a lot of stuff as psychologists. You can also be working the courts. You can actually give like professional testimonies and stuff like that. So I think there's a lot of opportunities for you if you are going to pursue that stream. That's what I wanted to do. But things didn't work out the way that I wanted to, but I actually like the path that God carved for me. So I hope I did answer the question. I'm not too sure if I did, but I hope I did.
Yes, you did. You did. Thank you so much. It's so lovely to have this webinar and to speak to women empowerment. It makes me feel so good. Yes. So thank you. I literally am very grateful. So thank you, guys.
Thank you so much for your question. Ms. Pizzi, do you have anything to add, or Dr. T covered everything?
Can I just add something for her?
Oh, please go ahead. Please go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So a lot of the work that we do in IJR, there's a whole peace building unit that actually deals with mental health and psychosocial support in communities. So you can also look at organizations that deal with social cohesion, because there's a whole element of psychology that they actually need to inform their programs. So look for organizations that deal with community social cohesion, and there's quite a few in South Africa. If I do remember offhand, I will just add them in the comment section for you.
Yeah,
Thank you so much. I was looking for NGOs for my honors year to do some stuff, and I found like the Teddy Bear Clinic, lots of places. But I would love it if you guys included some stuff. It would be such a help for me. Thank you.
Great stuff. Ms. Pizzi, did you raise your hand to answer the question, or are you good?
No, I'm good. I just wanted to say that I'm also learning, because initially when I started studying, I wanted to become a forensic psychologist as well. And things happen, you know.
Yeah, different direction.
Yeah.
Trust. Yes.
Yeah.
All right, great. All right, thanks. Okay, so I see another hand. I'm not sure who raised their hand first, but I'll take Stephanie Buha. I'm sorry if I didn't pronounce your surname properly. Please ask your question.
Great, thank you. And good evening, everybody. This isn't directed at any specific speaker. I just wanted to know, so hearing everyone speak, it seems like you've all got postgraduate degrees. So when looking for a job in this field, is it necessary to have an honors or a master's, or would an undergrad in criminology specifically suffice when looking for a job in this area?
Okay, great question.
Very great.
I'll just chip in there. I was taught since undergrad that it's beneficial to have a postgraduate degree. Initially, in South Africa, you are not recognized as a criminologist without a master's degree. So if you read somewhere that you need an honors, that's not true. You need a master's degree to even be a lecturer. Let's say you want to get into academia, you also need a master's degree. Yeah, that's what I know. Dr. T. Chelsea, Gia, do you want to chip in? Or any other speakers who are coming after, if you want to also add also your views.
Okay, I wanted to say that, sorry, Chelsea, you can go ahead. I'll go after you.
Okay. I would say it is beneficial, and it would give you more of the competitive edge, because I feel like everyone is getting an undergrad now and starting to see the value of undergrad and honors. So I would suggest to go further if you can. Equally, if you balance it out with your professional experience, that does weigh in a lot as well. So don't be discouraged if you don't have a master's, but you're sitting with like 7 years of experience. And I mean, by all means, you deserve that post, really. So but for your sake also, I suggest just go a bit more, because I won't lie, in honors under my undergrad, and then when I hit masters and I did criminology, it completely changed my thought process and how deep everything can be, and just it's completely opens your mind. So, and then you start thinking a lot differently. So I would suggest go further if you can.
Yeah, I agree. Definitely.
Okay.
Can I? So I
Yes,
just wanted
please,
to say
Dr.
that when I landed the job at ABSA, I actually didn't have a master's degree as yet. So but I had an honors degree in criminology. So yeah, so I would say maybe up to honors is important. I'm not too sure, because Just to be blunt, there's a lot of people that I studied with at UP with just a undergrad degree in criminology. And I mean, it's very difficult as it is to get a job with the honors degree in criminology. So they have not been able to work as anywhere in the criminology space with just an undergraduate degree. But with the honors degree, I was able to work as a risk analyst of violent crimes in a bank. So so I think up to honors would actually be very beneficial. But something that Ms. Nguni highlighted, which I would like to emphasize, is that you cannot, if you want to be called a criminologist, you cannot be called a criminologist without a master's degree. You would have to have a master's degree for you to be referred to as a criminologist. Otherwise, you're just a graduate who has an honors degree. It's the same as me. I have an honors degree in psychology. I would love to be called a psychologist, but I'm not. You know,
Yeah, true story.
I have two qualifications in psychology, the undergrad in psychology and the honors degree in psychology. And until I obtain that master's degree in psychology, I cannot be called a psychologist. It's the same with criminology. So I would advise, if you can't go all the way to master's, at least get your honors degree, although your master's degree would actually put you at an advantage.
Great, thank you so much. And sorry, not to be selfish, just a clarifying question. Would your honors or masters have to be in the criminology space, or could it be from a different discipline?
No.
It could be in the criminal justice. Criminal justice.
And if it's in the business field?
Business.
Yes.
No, we all know that criminology is not a pure science. That we know, and maybe that's why we are struggling so much. Criminology is not a pure science.
Yes.
We borrow from sociology, we borrow from psychology, we borrow from archaeology, we borrow from anthropology, basically all the ologies.
Borrowers.
We are borrowers. We're borrowing from everywhere, but a sociologist cannot be called a criminologist. So if you have like a qualification in sociology, you're a sociologist. If you have a qualification in criminal justice, but you specialize in criminology, you can be called a criminologist because your specialty is in criminology. But if you have a qualification in business, you can't be called a criminologist. So it has to be like in criminology, or if you're doing it in something else like criminal justice, then you must be specializing in criminology. So you can't be a psychologist and then you have criminology as a second major or as a minor, and then you want to be called a criminologist. You're a psychologist and not a criminologist. So I hope that clarifies. It's just like me. I can't be called a psychologist. I'm a criminologist because my highest qualification is in criminology.
No, it makes perfect sense. Thank you so much.
All right. Great. I just also want to just read out this comment by Hannes Kukemer. I'm so sorry about the surnames, but he wrote, I'm actually familiar with him from LinkedIn once again. He wrote that I am employed as a correctional officer, but I thought hard and long to be acknowledged as a criminologist. I now work as a correctional criminologist on an ad hoc basis. And yes, I still fight my managers and superiors actually now to know what that means. So he emphasizes that by working hard and showing up, that's how they see you. I just thought I should share that because it is quite important. I didn't know that he was actually a correctional official. But yes, I'll take more
and
questions.
He's also a member of CRIMSA.
Yes, a CRIMSA member. Yes.
Yes, he's in the marketing.
Definitely.
Sorry, before you take other questions, I think Taryn wanted to respond and then she disappeared.
Sorry, I didn't see it.
No, it's fine. I was going to say they're very, very similar to Dr. T, so I'm good. Thank you.
All right, thanks. Sorry, I didn't see your hand.
Can I just add on a bit?
Yeah, do you want to add?
Yes, please. I just
sorry, before Khonzi, please switch off your video. Okay, Kia, please go ahead.
I just wanted to say, with regards to the question as to whether you need a postgraduate qualification, I realized that in the corporate world, sometimes it seems you're overqualified, if I can say that, especially in these
Cool.
jobs in your government sector, private sector. Even I, with just an honors degree, sometimes I do come across as overqualified, and yeah, it's a I don't know, a win-lose situation, but I'd always say you need a postgrad master's at least.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks.
Right. I was also overqualified at ABSA. It felt like I was overqualified. So it's also a balancing game between
Mm,
academia.
yeah, true. Ncedisi, do you want to unmute your mic and ask a question? Oh, okay.
Yes. Oh no. I think I'm answered in many questions that I've had, and I'm still gonna listen. Maybe I'll pick up some questions. But the meeting, it's very much fruitful. I think if we can have such meetings like this weekly, we're gonna grow a lot.
Yeah.
Because to study, it needs much support, especially in different field. So I want to thank you guys for having this kind of meeting.
It's a pleasure. Thank you so much for attending. All right. We also have a question here by Uhobane. Oh, sorry, guys, I'm Xhosa, so my Tswana is bad. He says that I am a third-year student majoring in criminology and sociology. May I kindly ask, how can one get a job without experience because people are not even considered? Um, Job searching becomes very challenging. Sorry, my mic is not on. I just want to get in here quickly. Like Chelsea previously mentioned that freelancing, which obviously volunteering, is something that you should also consider to build up your experience. I think we can all agree that internships or volunteering without any pay, especially considering the climate we live in our country. I mean, lifestyle inflation and life in general is expensive, and all internships should be paid. However, when it comes to building your experience, you need to consider, and especially if you're just sitting at home, you end up considering just volunteering and building your experience. And unfortunately, all you can do is wait and apply and keep on applying and applying and applying and building those connections, because unfortunately we can't all guarantee jobs, but to put ourselves out there and just volunteer where we can, and look at these organizations. They're out there, the NGOs, and just email them and contact your LinkedIn connections and see how you can put yourself out there. Chelsea, do you want to add?
Yeah. Yeah, I just wanted to say, like, criminology and sociology that's a powerful combination. So, like, just assess what you have. So know the value of what you studied. And so when you go out there, explain to people why they need you, because everyone's always asking this, like, yes, we do need the jobs, but we have also studied for these positions. We're not just like flimsy people. So understand the value in what you studied and be assertive. Go out to NGOs, ask them, tell them what you qualified in and what you're trying to gain.
Yeah,
NGOs are always looking for people. They really are. They are short staffed. So don't let them fool you. They are very short staffed.
Yeah, I agree. Great stuff. Okay, yeah, definitely. All right, so I do not see any more hands, and the chat box as well. Okay, Stephanie.
I'm
Right.
happy to read it out again. I just,
Oh,
sorry,
thank you.
I didn't want
They
to.
keep coming in, so I'm trying to losing everything. Please, you can
I
just.
didn't want to hog the Q&A session, but if there are no more questions, then I did want to know, would it be possible to firstly, unpack what a risk analyst does in a little more detail. And then the second question, if you could maybe share some suggested keywords that we could use when we're doing a job search on LinkedIn as well, please. And it doesn't have to necessarily be in this session. Maybe we could send a mail out afterwards with some suggested keywords.
Okay, so what I'm thinking of doing is, thankfully with Teams, you have an attendance register with everyone's email. So I'll definitely take the time to email everyone and add the recording of this session, as well as any resources that were mentioned in this webinar. I'll do this weekend. I'll make time because I understand how important it is. And then, so we'll be able to provide you with that information as well.
That would be wonderful. Thank you.
Great stuff. Okay, let's just see. Any more questions? Okay, it's just comments. Oh, all right. Bunolo says that they will definitely invite others because they thought this would be a very boring and sleepy webinar, and she was surprised. I'm glad to hear that. All right. So because of time, let's just move on to other speakers. Okay, great. So the following speaker is, let me just find her details quickly, Miss Portia Matlala. She's a former colleague of mine and she's currently a friend of mine. Ms. Matlala is a criminology graduate with the BA Criminology and a BA Honours in Criminology from the University of Free State, respectively. Ms. Matlala began her career in academia at UNISA in 2017 as a junior lecturer. She then decided to make a brave move like Dr. T when she left ABSA for being a postgraduate research assistant. Portia did the same and left UNISA to follow her passion for corrections, which was an internship at correctional services. She has worked her role as in community corrections. She's currently a correctional officer at Sasolburg Correctional Center. Ms. Matlala today will be joining us and sharing with us her experience as a professional in the correctional services. As I'm sure that most of you guys have seen posts for internships and internships at SAPS and DCS. So if you've been wondering what exactly goes on as an intern at the Department of Correctional Services, Ms. Matlala will be discussing her roles and how she got that role at DCS. Portia, thank you so much for joining us. She made it on time. She was working late. So thank you so much for joining us today. Kindly, you unmute your mic and you can definitely go ahead and share your presentation.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Nukunova, for this webinar. Thank you for this opportunity. My journey wasn't an easy one. Since matric, my AP score was not that good to get me access to varsity. So I had to bridge with a program that is done by the University of the Free State. And while I was bridging, I knew right then and then that I want to work with criminals. I want to work with offenders. Because for some reason, I was fascinated by why certain people commit crimes. I wanted to get into their minds and understand why do they do these things that they do. So every day after class, my friend and I would go to court. We'd go to court, we just check on the doors which court session is in session. We'd go in, just sit in and listen. I'd come back inspired. You know, I fell in love with law right there and then. I wanted to study criminal law. But then one thing that I didn't like was seeing offenders being cuffed. I couldn't stomach that. Well, now I even cuff them myself. Now that I understand the importance of cuffing offenders. Well, there was a lady who was like our mediator between the university and the college that we were bridging with. So we filled out forms saying that what we're going to study the following year. And unfortunately, she didn't submit our forms. Come the following year, I'm going to varsity. I wanted to register. I couldn't register because the forms were not submitted and the LLB course was full. The only course that had space was the human societal dynamics. I didn't know what that is. what it entailed. And then I called my mom saying that I want to come back because I can't study what I want to study. And she said, no, don't come back. Just stay there, study that course for that year, and then you apply for your LLB next year. But little did I know that I'm going to fall in love with criminology. I fell in love with criminology that I even forgot that I wanted to study law. And during that year, I felt like I don't just want to study about these people in textbooks. I want to work with them every day, interact with them, talk to them, get into their minds. That's when I started applying for Department of Correctional Services jobs. I applied and applied and applied for years. I've been applying. Then I did my degree and then my honors. And then after honors, I'm like, I'm busy gathering all these qualifications and I don't have any experience. I felt like I needed the experience. So I came back home, started applying for jobs, even others that I don't even know what they entail. I just started applying. And then I stayed at home for almost 2 years unemployed, still looking for a job, sitting with all these qualifications, until a friend of mine told me that they're looking for an assistant lecturer at UNISA. I jumped at the opportunity, sent my qualifications, started at UNISA in 2017. And okay, academia for me was okay for a while, but there was still this void that I felt that I want to work in prison. I had that void whenever there was a volunteer work with any professor at UNISA to go to any prison, I'd jump at the opportunity. And I became so excited whenever we go to any correctional center until the Department of Correctional Services called me for an interview. I went there, everything went well. A few days later, I was called that you're going to the college for your basic training. I was excited until I got there. Basic training was hectic. It was challenging. I don't know how I survived, but I kept reminding myself every now and then, this is what you've always wanted. Just hang in there, persevere, it'll be over soon. And it was 5 months of learning about the theories, learning theories about prison, and then 7 months of practicals at a correctional center, the part that I enjoyed the most, because now we got to work with offenders now. Then we finished that, and then we were on probation for a year. And then the pandemic hit. We were told to stay at home for about 2 months. When we came back, we were told that we can't perform any security jobs. We can't work in prison. We're only allowed to work in offices. So the only time I could talk to an offender is when he comes to clean the office. And that alone was not enough for me because I wanted to be in there, inside the prison with them. And then our probation contract ended, and then we were unemployed again for about 2 months, sorry. And then we were called again around June for a permanent contract. That was then that I finally got a chance to do what I really wanted to do, what I love, to interact with offenders, to work with them. So at the moment, I work in the Corrections Management Administration Office. I'm a clerk in there. So in there, we administer bails, we admit and release offenders, we administer fines, we pay offenders gratuity, those who work within the prison. We don't call it a salary or a wage, it's just a gratuity, which gives them a form of responsibility. They feel like they're working, and then at the end of the month, they get paid for the services rendered, and then they go to the shop to spend the gratuity that they've earned to buy themselves toiletries, snacks, anything. So I've come to realize that it gives them a sense of responsibility. They feel like, you know what, I am responsible. So my advice to anyone who wants to work for the department is that prison is a very dangerous environment, I must say, which requires one to be always vigilant at all times. You can't just let your guard down. But if you love it, if you have passion for it, I'd say go for it, because once you're in, it's difficult to get in because I applied since 2015 and I was only called in 2019. But once you're inside, not even the sky is the limit. You can work in HR, supply chain, you can be a researcher there. There's a lot to do. You can help offenders with rehabilitation programs that entails dressmaking, cooking, plumbing, you name it. Hence, I'm saying that it's difficult to get into the department, but once you're in, not even the sky's the limit. Nothing can stop you. So trust the process, believe in yourself. No matter how difficult it is to reach your dreams, when you believe in yourself, you can actually do it. Thank you.
You're muted.
My mic is muted. Sorry. Thank you so much, Ms. Matlala. Okay. All right. So I'm just reading the messages. Like I previously mentioned, we were colleagues, so I would always be at her office and we'll just be talking about our future, because one thing that we had in common is that when we started academia, she started before me, we were both unsure about the field. However, I've always known that she has a passion for corrections, and she is in corrections now, and she's paving her way and making her own individual moves there. So I'm definitely proud of her. So thank you so much for taking the time to share your experience. It is a bit difficult. I'm sure we can all relate getting to DCS. But I think that they are making progress. Because I also I've been applying since 2014, and I only got called while I was in UNISA already, and my goals had already shifted by then. So yeah. So I'd like to just move on to the next speaker. Someone's mic is just okay, sorry. I can't administer all the muting. All right, so the next speaker, I suggested that I should just go first, and then after me will be Ms. Taryn Roy. I will just be discussing navigating a career in academia. I'm not the highest experienced in academia. However, I do feel like I do have a unique story to share. So straight out of high school, I'm starting with my presentation actually right now. So straight out of high school, I wanted to be a lawyer like Miss Matlala. I had no plan B. I knew that I am going to be that lawyer with the gowns and have my big bag, pulling it, and I could see myself at the high court. And that's all my focus was on. And then I passed my matric. Looking back, the marks were just honestly embarrassing, but I made it. And then I went straight to UNISA. So I've always been an open distance learning student. I've done all my degrees at UNISA. I went ahead and I did LLB. However, it was not what I imagined it to be. The vision did not match the work that was needed, and it wasn't calling my name at all. I just felt hopeless. I felt demotivated, and it just wasn't for me. I don't know if it was maybe the Italian or the Italian that they use. It just wasn't for me. And I had to reach a point where I knew that I needed to change degrees. And however, I didn't have a plan B. I knew that I did not want to divert and go into business studies or any English or history. I was just a lost puppy until my father suggested that, look, it's time for you to register for something else, because my father always believed in education and I wasn't just going to sit at home. So I looked at the time when UNISA still had the physical booklets for the qualifications, and I looked under the College of Law, and I saw that in criminal justice, there's this qualification called criminology. obviously I did what we all young people do best, is I went to Google and I Googled criminology. And I found that criminology is a fantastic field. Little did I know in America, because they gave me all these lists of possible careers that you can get into. And at that time, I was really into criminal minds, CSI, you name it, any forensic investigate, I was there watching. And I knew that this space is for me, you know. I've always been into analyzing criminal stats and all of that. So I knew that I wasn't lost. However, what I didn't know though is that American criminology is international criminology, rather, especially European criminology, is not the same as the criminology we experience here in South Africa. By that I mean in the job market. So after I did my undergrad, I graduated my honors. Then I went ahead and graduated my undergrad, went ahead and did my honors because there wasn't any work, right? So I did my honors, and that's when I was introduced to research. And that's when I realized that I do not like research. Research is a very scientific writing. So you might come across, like when you do your assignments, you are required to conduct a brief literature review, and you are expected to do your research on accredited journals and so forth. That's what academia is about. Those journals that you read, most academics, professors, lecturers wrote on those articles. But people who also do other work can also write articles, but mainly that's a key performance area for lecturers and professors, anyone in academia. So that's when I knew that I don't want to do research. I want to be in corporate. I wanted to be Miss Pizzi. I wanted to be Kia, and I knew that I want an office, and I want to wear high heels, and I want to be in corporate, and I want to do investigative work, like insurance. That I knew that's what I wanted to do. And I remember applying at Nedbank for this analyst job, and my dreams were crushed because they did not take me. And every single time is regret to inform, to such an extent that I was even happy to get a letter of "we regret to inform you," because they would just go dead silent and no one would say anything. So at least if they sent me an email, I'd know that okay, they viewed my application, however I didn't make it through. So I did my honors. It was very challenging. That's, like I previously mentioned, that's where I met Chelsea and Taryn. We did our honors together, and we graduated same day at UNISA together as well. After my honors, I was still unemployed, and obviously I had to look onto what to do next, right? I didn't have a choice but to study further. So then I briefly applied for my master's. It wasn't even a good research outline, but I just did it. And surprise to me, they accepted my application. I met the what's the overall average mark, and they accepted my application. So while I did my first year master's, a post came out for a research assistant in criminology, Department of Criminology and Security Science. And I knew of this post. What they call is a program, which I don't think it's available now, but it's called the Grow Your Own Timber. So I was aware of this program since I was actually in high school, because my father worked in academia. So I knew of it. And because I knew that I didn't want to do research, however, I was in a dying need of a job. So I applied, and all they needed is someone who was registered for their master's degree. So I met the requirements, and I applied. When I went there, I met Professor Mataba. He's a professor in correctional management, and he basically asked me, "What is it that you want to do?" And I told him that I want to work in corporate. And he was like, you have an opportunity right now. You are young to do your master's. You don't have any children. You're not married. Not that you can't do these things, guys, if you're married or have children, but you basically have all this time, and you might face less challenges because you have all this time to study. He suggested that I go for my master's, and I applied for this job and go into academia. I wasn't left with much choice, to be honest. I went into academia because obviously I needed the experience and I needed to build myself. So when I went into academia as a research assistant, that's when my mind opened. I had didn't have my own office, but I shared an office, but technically it was mine. My neighbor, my office my colleagues were professors or doctors. I mean, people I'm working with big people. So I mean, how can you not be motivated, right? But every time I'd acknowledge that I've been put in this position to be familiar with this environment, I decided to not doubt myself. I was like, how about I just change my perspective and embrace myself? So as a research assistant, our main role was to actually complete our master's degrees. That's another thing with working at UNISA. I was able to have flexible time to complete my master's degree, and that's how I was able to build myself. So when I completed my master's degree, and then I realized that, okay, I might have the potential to be in academia because I suffered from a lot of imposter syndrome. So in academia, what we do exactly, we are lecturers. We work with tuition and learning. So we set up your assignments, your exams, we mark, and that's the tuition and learning part of things and the classes that we do. With UNISA, it's distance learning. So we don't have these physical contact classes. So that's one aspect that we do. What we also do is we also have community engagement where we reach out to the community, whatever project that each committee has, but we take the time to do community engagement where we go out to DCS and work on projects with them, or the current project that we're doing now is working with schools, teaching them about research. And then the most important part about what I'd say is taken more important is research. Bear in mind, I was a bit nervous about research, but I'm starting to be very confident because I made it to being a PhD candidate. I mean, at least I cannot undermine myself that much. So so number one would be research. Research now is actually conducting field work, research, desktop research, researching about a phenomenon and writing about it and publishing. So that's what academia is all about. So if you know that you're a person who doesn't like books, then it might be a challenge because all you do is read. I always ask my mentor, how are you able to read for leisure? Because we're reading feminist criminology journals, active criminology, we're always reading, we're always conducting literature. But I do think it's actually a great place to be. Academia is honestly a great place to be, but that's if your passion lies there. I mean, if it's not for you, then it's not for you. But academia, and you're also not limited, as you would have heard me describe Dr. Tobane's bio, is that she also has an organization on her own. You can also do things on the side besides academia. You can definitely merge academia with your personal projects. Also, like what I'm doing now, I'm a lecturer, I'm doing school, but I felt the need to also create this platform. That is something that I do on the side, which also merges with one of the key performance areas of being an academic is teaching and learning, because what we're doing here is we're educating, we're putting the word out there. So that's what academia is all about. You just really need to keep on studying, because once you're in academia, you can't just sit and think after masters you're done. No one's going to tell you, but it is required that you go and get that PhD. So it's constant studying, but it's a beautiful place to be because you're always motivated, and yeah, it's a great environment to work in. At least at UNISA, we have different. Each university has a different way they do things. Some universities are very research focused. Others, they have that balance like we do, and others, like, you don't have to publish in other universities. So it is different for every university. I'll definitely in the future like to get the perspective of other lecturers in other universities as well. But in a nutshell, that's what academia is all about. And that's how criminology is in academia. We basically teach criminology, all the modules from first year all the way to postgrad. But then obviously it depends on your qualification and which module you can teach. So that's all I have to say about academia. And thank you so much for tuning in. So right into it, I'll just introduce our last speaker, and then after that we'll do our Q&A session. I see that we're a bit over time and truly apologize for that, and thank you so much for still tuning in. But our last speaker is going to be Ms. Taryn Roy. Taryn Jane Roy graduated from the University of South Africa. She's also a UNISA graduate like me. She did all her degrees at UNISA. She graduated UNISA with a Master's of Criminology in 2020. She holds a BA and a BA Honours in Criminology from UNISA as well. She spent a year interning with the South African Police Services Crime Information Management and Analysis Center. And she has been involved in voluntary and contractually in research, mediation, and mentoring at various NGOs focused on social empowerment. She is passionate about justice and social upliftment with special interest in the special interest in at-risk children and gender-based violence. She is currently a researcher at Africa Check. And Taryn is here today to just discuss to share her experience as an SAPS intern, navigating employment as a criminal justice a graduate, and her role currently as a researcher at Africa Check. Taryn, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. So I'll try and keep it short because we are short on time, but I appreciate you giving me the time to talk. So my interest in criminology also started when I was a child with Cluedo and Sherlock Holmes and all of the things, and developed into more true crime and just trying to understand what the criminal mind is, and had no idea what to study. And a friend of mine said to me one day, she was doing psychology, she said, "Why don't you do criminology?" And that's how my journey started. And through studying, I absolutely love children. I don't want my own, but I love them. I realized that those two passions could intersect and that I could work with child offenders or children in conflict with the law, as well as children in need of care and protection. And so that's where my journey is going. But at the moment, my journey is very much in research. So I started my BA in 2011 and finished in 2015, took a year break, did honours, and honestly I can say honours is difficult. For those of you who are doing honours, push through, it's really hard. After that it gets easier. I know it's crazy, but masters and PhD are so much better for me. So I did my master's last year and then started my PhD immediately, and I'm currently busy with my PhD, and my focus is trauma and at-risk children. So I was told that I wouldn't get a job with a BA and with just a degree. And so I did not start looking for a job until I had an honours degree, which is a mistake. Start looking for jobs immediately, start volunteering immediately, start putting anything on your CV that you can immediately. Do short courses, do volunteering, do all of it. So when I started looking for a job with honours, I had absolutely no experience in the field. I needed a position that paid fairly well because I am self-supportive. So the journey was really, really difficult. I applied for many positions and I started volunteering during that time as well as doing short courses, while at the same time doing a master's and then later a PhD. I started volunteering for two organizations that specifically focused on, I specifically chose them because of their work with at-risk children. So it was Kulisa Social Services and Restorative Justice Center. Both have been absolutely fantastic to me. With Kulisa Social Services, I've done two big research projects. I've been involved in webinars. I've been involved in putting together research proposals for them to get funding for us to do research, big research projects. So they really have used me, and it really has added value to my CV, as well as given me a platform to network. With Restorative Justice Center, I have done a course with them to be a victim offender mediation facilitator, and we are involved in doing victim offender mediations with offenders that are up for parole. So basically bringing the offender and the victim together if the victim is willing, so that when the offender is released on parole, they don't go into the community with a broken relationship with that victim. So we're involved in that, and I'm working on a case with a person at the moment as well. So basically that's what my volunteering did, and that added a lot of value to my CV. And I think because of that, it's partly one of the reasons I got the internship at SAPS. So the internship at SAPS was really great, but also really, really stressful. It was during COVID as well. if you ever do become an intern with SAPS, be aware that you're going to fight to be paid. But yeah, I had a wonderful team. I learned a lot in that capacity. We did crime pattern analysis. We did data and all data analysis. We checked data integrity. So basically my day would start, I worked in the Santon branch, my day would start with reading all of the crime that was reported the previous day and making sure that it was correctly allocated. So for example, if it was a theft, that it wasn't recorded as a robbery and so forth, because obviously in a court of law, those crimes hold different seriousness. So that's what we did, and then we'd create presentations identifying hotspots, trends, modus operandi, all of those things, so that we could inform the visible policing. So it was really interesting, used a lot of Excel. I advise anybody who is interested in an analyst role to do Excel. Go and learn Excel very, very, very well. It's super important. So I did that for a year. SAPS does not keep people on. You have to apply for a job. So I applied for a whole lot of jobs. I actually went for 2 interviews with the DPCI. So those of you who are applying for jobs at the DPCI, they do interview criminology students. In fact, I did actually get through to the one right up to my medical, and then past my medical, and I'm not too sure what happened after that. So they do interview, and I'm pretty sure that I got that position, and then possibly they just couldn't recruit because of some reason, because I phoned the lady who interviewed me and she was very, very positive about it. So yeah, don't give up hope if you're applying for those positions. So after the role at SAPS, obviously during the internship at SAPS, I was looking for work and managed or came across this job at Africa Check and applied. So what Africa Check does is it's an NGO that does fact checking in the public space. So anything said by politicians, by journalists, by the public on social media, we fact check. We can fact check anything. So my first fact check, for instance, my first fact checks have been on all of the issues surrounding the new Firearm Control Amendment Bill. So I checked stuff like that. And what's lovely about this position is that I talk to so many people. Lorenzo Temba, who is Becky Clearly's spokesperson, knows me by name. I've spoken to spokespeople in the police. I've spoken to spokespersons in SANDF, and just you talk to so many different people, and it's great for networking. So I'll say that it's not where I want to be, but I'm grateful to be here because it is going to open a lot of doors for my future one day, which is hopefully to work with at-risk children. So lastly, I'm just going to give a few tips and advice, because the journey for me has been a difficult one, and hopefully it'll help you guys in your journey. A lot of the things have already been said. My first thing is that if you are interested in research, which is a lot of what I've done, write, and read. So like Nokonwaba said, reading, you have to enjoy reading, because you're going to be dealing with so much information and reading so much. That has to be something that you enjoy. And then write. So I was contacted by a guy whose work I really, really love, and he's involved in human trafficking. And some advice that he gave me was write. So whether it be writing articles for newspapers or just submitting them, whether it be writing journal articles if you can and just trying to get them to submit, writing on LinkedIn, writing posts on social media, just write. Practice your writing, put your content out there, and hopefully someone will see it. If not, you're gaining experience and you're gaining knowledge on how to write. My second tip is volunteer. I can honestly say, while you are studying, don't just study. Even if you're working, I worked through all of my studying, I've worked. And with my degree, I worked 2 jobs. And even with some of my honors, I worked 2 jobs and still find the time to volunteer. So just find an NGO that's doing what you want to do and offer your services. Email them, say this is what I can do, this is my qualifications, put me to work, and I promise you they'll put you to work. I might throw you in the deep end. Kulisa threw me in the deep end, but you'll swim. My next point is network. It is so important to make connections. LinkedIn is such an important tool. you know, Google tells you how to work LinkedIn. Just spend your time on there. Just like, just comment, just stay on there. Be friends with absolutely everyone and message people. If you look at someone and you say, wow, that person really inspires me, or their research looks amazing, or they're doing what I want to do, send them a message and say, hey, this is who I am, this is what I do, this is what I want to do. Do you have some advice for me? And you'll be amazed at the doors that opens. Then also, I just want to say, you know, as has been mentioned, Chelsea and myself and Nokonwaba did honors together, and we formed a little group where we helped each other and encouraged each other, and are still now, all of us are, you know, doing different things now, but we've maintained that friendship, and those two women have been my strength in the job hunt. They have encouraged me, they've guided me, they've just done amazing things. And so find those people, find your support group. It's so crucial and so important, and these women are amazing. And then just quickly, don't stop learning, whether it be getting a PhD. You don't have to go all the way to PhD, but do short courses. Read, stay up to date with the news, stay up to date with what's happening with law, you know, what's happening with the Firearm Control Amendment Bill, what's happening out there with elections. Just keep learning. And then, just like Dr. T said, get creative with your job search. You cannot search criminologist. You are going to find nothing. Use words criminal justice, use words analyst, use words researcher, research, investigate, words like that. Whatever it is that you are interested in, put it in there. At-risk children, gender-based violence, advocacy. Those are the type of words, depending on what your interests are. Just be creative and constantly be checking the government websites. GovZA is a great website. They give you a list of literally all the government departments, and then you link to all the government departments to their actual career page where the jobs are. Go on that website, check it constantly, because all of the internships, all of the government departments do internships. So DSD, DCS, SAPS, NPA, all of them do it, and a lot of them are willing to take criminologists. So go and look on those websites and apply for those, and just put your name out there. And lastly, just believe in yourself and believe in the career, believe in your passion, believe in what you've got to offer to this field, because we live in South Africa, we need it. And yeah, that's me. Thanks, guys. Hope it was short.
It was perfect. Thank you so much, Taryn, for the kind words and the compliments. And also thank you so much for inspiring you know, some of the students and graduates in this field. Like always, I just want to, I will get into your questions right now. I see that the hands up. But Taryn, I just want to highlight, she said that especially if you'd like to get into the research part of things, write, and read, all right? And she also said, allow yourself to be put to work. And that's how you'll be able to prove yourself. She also said, network and don't be scared to message people. This is obviously advice that we've all said. It's important to network and put your name out there, you know. Don't stop learning. We're not all saying everyone should get a PhD. Look, our paths are different. Not everyone has to get a PhD. Get creative with your job search. She highlighted what Dr. T already said earlier in her presentation. And lastly, believe in yourself and believe in your career. Like we all said, it can be demotivating, but you need to keep on believing, because it's possible. We just need to keep on believing. I will take questions now. Thank you so much, Taryn, for your presentation. It was short and sweet, but very informative. All right, I just want to quickly start with Witness's question in the chat box, DC, then I will go to you. Dr. T, this question is for you. Where do we draw the line with the emerging researchers tag? So I am assuming Witness is saying that when are you emerging researcher and what is a researcher? Yeah, Dr. T.
So different organizations, because it's not just PIMSA that has emerging researchers. I know like different universities and organizations do have early early career professionals or emerging researchers. So different organizations have different criteria, different age, cutoff age. For CRIMSA, I know we usually say like it doesn't really have to do with age, because you can be 60 and still be emerging in your career, right? You started a new career, so you're still emerging. But when we are having like a colloquia, for example, we like cut it off at 40. But if there's somebody who feels that they are emerging in their career, we open up this space. So there's different, and I think Hannes also, like in the correctional services, somebody was asking about age. He mentioned something like about 35. So you can see like at UCT, at like they might be like a certain age. And I know with like NRF also, they've got like scholarships and stuff. And then there's like a cutoff age for those scholarships. So there isn't really a straight answer for it, because there's different different criteria for different organizations. That's the short of it, basically.
Yeah, I agree. All right, let's just go to Mncedisi. You may unmute your mic and ask your question.
Oh, okay. Evening again. Ma'am, can I have the CRIMSMA email then? And then my question is, as I'm combinating criminology with social work, then I want to know that where it's gonna lead me, like this combination. And then I would like you guys to organize the next meeting, because it's very much like helping, please.
Yeah, okay.
All right.
All right, thanks for your question, Mncedisi. So Mncedisi wants to know how, and please take down your hand so I don't mistake you again. Mncedisi wants to know how can he make use of his social work and criminology degree. I'm assuming they are his majors or minors. I definitely would like to think that his degree could definitely work, obviously, in the Department of Correctional Services. However, if any other speakers want to add on to that before I give my thoughts. Taryn? Dr. T?
Taryn can go first.
Taryn?
So I was just going to say, with a degree in social work, I would definitely carry on with honours and become a proper social worker, register with their professional body, because there are so many social worker positions available that I would love to have, but you have to be registered. I think it's the HPCSA, or I'm not too sure, maybe Dr. T knows more with that. But yeah, so, and also I think with social work, decide if, I assume you would want to focus on crime, but decide on what specialization you would like to focus on, because social work is really, really broad. So decide what you want to focus on, and then maybe try and get an internship if it's, social development, corrections, whichever one it is, mental health, then try and get an internship in one of those. That's my advice.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, every time when Karen speaks, I want to jump up because she says stuff that I want to say, and I just want to agree with her, and I just want to repeat what she's saying. I would definitely also go the social work route. I'm not discouraging, and you can actually do criminology with the social work, because like in the NPO space, for example, in the space where I work in gender-based violence, we need like social workers a lot, because obviously we offer like a lot of services, and one of the services that is actually major is psychosocial services. So you need social workers, obviously, to do counseling and all of that. So Taryn mentioned social development. You can work at social development, where she worked before, Teddy Bear Clinic, all these spaces basically where the psychosocial services are required. You can actually work there as a social worker. You can work at the Department of Correctional Services. The scope is actually much, much wider than if you just have criminology. And the nice thing is that if you actually have the criminology also as a major or as a minor, you can actually work in the crime space as a social worker, offering counseling and all of that. So I would definitely take the social work route, especially if you do love social work and you're honest in social work, and get registered as a social worker, and your scope, like your opportunities are going to be much more in comparison to just having the criminology honors.
Yeah, I agree. I always agree. But yeah, I do. Okay, so we have a question in the chat box quickly. Uhopa says, how can criminology graduates commercialize this craft, or is it limited to being an employee? You know, before this webinar, I read on, I don't know, something in me said I should look into Oscar Pistorius' case. And there was a criminologist, actually, I forgot, I think it's Louise Peters or something. And she's actually a consultant, a criminology consultant. And I connected with her immediately on LinkedIn. So she has an honors in criminology and she does consulting for her criminology work. And so she is self-employed, of course, that's her business. But that's, I'm assuming that's one way to commercialize on the degree, to open your own business as a consulting. She's a consulting forensic criminologist. So it is possible for you to open your own consultancy firm, but however, you really need to know your craft and what is it that you're offering out there to various institutions as well. Any of the speakers would like to chip in? Taryn, Dr. T.
Sorry. Do you want to go, Dr. T?
So I wanted to say the biggest mistake that we make in universities as lecturers and students is actually studying to be employed by somebody else. And that's why we are struggling so much with finding jobs. So I think we need to get to a point where, and it's very difficult, I understand, because I mean, we're not taught how to be like entrepreneurs at school and stuff like that, but we need to learn that. I feel that criminology can be commercialized. You can actually start your own thing and not wait to be employed. I have my own NPO that focuses on gender-based violence. Yes, I'm employed. It's not obviously generating enough money for me to stop working at the moment. But at some point, I think I'm actually going to be self-employed and might be employing other criminologists and other professionals and not depend on somebody else to create a job for me. But also the research space. I do consulting. Like I said, I'm a research consultant. I love research. So I do a lot of research, whether in UNISA. The nice thing about that you said, Noaba, is that the nice thing about being an academic and maybe working at UNISA and research is one of your KPAs, because that's my personal, that's something that I'm passionate about also. So it works out. I'm able to take that research outside of UNISA, and I'm able to consult with like other institutions and stuff like that and do research. So think about it. As I said, criminologist, should we not start our own research consulting companies? There's Africa Check that's looking for people to check facts. There's Human Sciences Research Council. You can actually consult as a researcher. You don't have to be confined to looking for a job. But something that very important that Taryn said, and I'm always agreeing with Taryn, but she said something very important in her presentation. You know, sometimes when you are in a job and you think that you might not need the skill that you are actually acquiring at the moment. Maybe you're like Taryn right now says that at Africa Check, it's not a place that she necessarily wants to be forever. But for sure, the skill of being able to do fact, checking is, you need it as a researcher. I worked as a risk analyst at ABSA. I was analyzing violent crimes, and all of that. And I was doing a lot of statistics because, I mean, it's a bank. We work with money and whatever. So my primary goal was to make sure that ABSA is saved money by analyzing the risks of all those violent crimes and how we can prevent them and whatever and stuff like that. And somebody was like, risk analyst. And I realized the skill that I learned at ABSA as a risk analyst, I actually use it so much now as a researcher, because that's my career trajectory. I think it was, I don't remember the other speaker's name. She spoke about SPSS and all of that.
Or Chelsea.
And it was Chelsea. It was Chelsea.
Yeah.
So when I'm doing my research, I didn't study statistics, but because I worked as a risk analyst and I did a lot of statistics, I'm actually quite good at quantitative research. Because I was a risk analyst, I was cracking numbers and all of that. So that skill that looks like I didn't really need it, I'm actually using it a lot now as a researcher. For my master's and PhD, I didn't need a statistician to actually do my data analysis for me. I was analyzing data on a daily basis as a risk analyst. So when you volunteer, when you are in jobs, don't ever think that if it doesn't fit neatly into your field as a criminologist, it doesn't mean that the skills you are acquiring there, you are not going to need them as a psychologist, as a criminologist. That's very important.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dr. T. Taryn, did you want to say something?
I just
Then
want
I'll
to
take it
say
to the
that
chat box.
Laurie Peters wrote a book. Well, it's called The Story of Advocate Barbie. So it's not
yeah.
a nice read at all. It's really, really rough, but she was involved with, I can't even remember the names. I read it so long ago, but Dirk Prinsloo and Suzanne Visser. And they actually abused children, and she worked for their company. So she wasn't involved in the crimes, but she worked for their company, and through that's actually how she started studying criminology. So yeah, it's quite a good read if anyone's interested. She's the criminologist from Pistorius's case.
Oh yes.
So
Thank you.
Where the link is. So actually wrote a book if anyone's interested. Just
Thank you so much.
Also, I love that Dr. T agrees with me. That's a huge compliment. I'm just saying.
I see that you wrote it in the chat, but I'll just take notes of all the recommendations like I previously said, and I'll let everyone know. But Hannes also wanted to add something.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, you're very much audible.
Okay, cool. So I've worked with a few private criminologists in my time. One who actually worked 7 years freelance for the Western Cape Correctional Services before she was offered a contract, and she did the pre-parole assessments. So I think that there is a lot of work to monetize criminology as a assessor. There's also there's a lot of podcasts that are being done that are both from criminology and from forensic psychology perspectives. And that is also another way to not just expand your networking, but to expand your income stream, so to speak. I'm looking at true crime South Africa that's basically just reporting on high-level crimes or high incidence of crimes that occurred, looking at Gerard Labuskaghni's history, Mieke Pistorius' history. All of them took their experience and wrote books and became consultancies afterwards. Gerard is currently doing threat management in public and private spaces. So we kind of get stuck in this idea that I've studied a box version of criminology, I've studied a theoretical version of criminology, and that's it. And I'm specializing in violence, in a specific form of violence, but the same theories, the same models that I'm building can be applied in community violence, can be applied in school violence, can be applied in so many other fields. So your consultation and your expanse of your knowledge can be a lot further but it's that ingenuity, it's that looking outside of the box that you've been given and realizing that this is a Lego. This is not a house, this is your Lego to build your castle.
Yeah.
That's my comment.
Thank you so much. I totally agree. I definitely agree with that. There are ways. I think what's important is that we just need to, there are ways, but we just need to find ways to like maneuver to actually reach how we can monetize, because it's not easy. It's not an overnight thing. You really have to plan it out and find a way how you can just monetize on your qualifications, because it can be a bit daunting to just wait on employment, and maybe looking ways how you can firstly gain experience for yourself and then be able to consult for another institution. So thank you so much for that comment. And all right, I see that people are asking for contact details and so forth, but I'll definitely highlight that. And thank you so much to everyone for staying this long. We are around 20 minutes over time, but I'd like to see this as a great thing, because clearly there was a discussion that it was very needed. And thank you so much to the attendees for being so interactive and asking questions. So thank you so much for tuning in. I really hope the webinar was very informative. This really is very important to me, because, a lot of the times our universities, it's different for every university, but with UNISA, we are under the College of Law. I know criminology and is under humanities at UP and in other universities, but criminal justice students do not have such initiatives that are available. I will always go to workshops and so forth, and all they would talk about is LLB, LLB, LB. And you say you're in entire College of Law, but you're missing, some of the students in the entire college. So it was really important for me to initiate and put out this project. So I really wish that that we could go on and on and on, but there's always more to talk about. So please do not hesitate. I'll put the details in the chat. So please do not hesitate to email me. Well, I say we, I'm the founder, but I mean, with the networking, I can definitely ask for some advice from my other networks as well. So you can definitely send your emails. I saw that one student was asking where can we email for further webinars and so forth. You can definitely email at criminaljustice.empowered@gmail.com for any inquiries that you may have as a student or graduate in the criminal justice field. I know that today we spoke a lot about criminology, but like I previously mentioned, this is the field that I'm in. So I thought it would only be fit that we start with something that I am familiar with. But in future, I really see this going bigger than just criminology, and also considering students in forensics and police, and security and corrections. And we'd definitely love to have other professionals discussing their careers as a criminal justice as a whole. So this platform is here for you, to provide community and guidance. So please, also, I'd like you to complete the evaluation form as well, where you'll be able to write your feedback and just give feedback on the webinar and what you would look forward to and what support do you need as a student and a graduate. And I know that some of you guys are busy with exams. I know that students couldn't make it today because they are writing exams. So that's why I also thought it was important to record it. Thank you also so much for allowing me to record the session. All the best for your exams, and all the best to the graduates that are also job hunting. To our speakers, I cannot thank you enough for making this happen. I literally thought about this idea in August. One day I was like, I need to do something. I've been thinking about it for a long time. In August, I thought about it and I reached out to my closest circle in my network. And thank you so much, Dr. Tobane, Ms. Spitzi, Ms. Matlala, Ms. Roy, Ms. Cohen. Thank you so much for sharing your experiences with us and, motivating us. And thank you for attending. I'm going to put the information, the email, the Criminal Justice Empowered email, as well as the link to the evaluation form. And once, please fill in the form. Let me know what else you'd like criminal injustice to do for you as a student and a graduate in criminal justice field. And then I will not forget to send out the recording for this webinar, as well as the resources that were mentioned. Yeah, I also have a book here, but because of time, I'll just share all the resources in the email. I promise I will share the information. And also, please don't forget to let me know if you would like me to put this platform on social networks, your Facebook, your LinkedIn. I could definitely create a group, and I promise to be as interactive as possible because I want to keep this initiative going, right? So I just pasted the information here. Just go through it and please fill in the form. I'd like to thank you so much for your time, and I appreciate your attendance. It really surprised me, and this just motivates me to continue doing this for for the students and the graduates. Thank you so much for your time, and I officially adjourn the webinar. Keep safe and keep well. Bye, everyone. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you
Bye.
all. This was wonderful.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Power. Yay.